Hey everyone, it's been a while, I know, since my last upload, but I'm finally back with some fresh After Effects tutorials for you guys. Thanks for sticking around, I really appreciate your support. Today, we're going to create a smart 2D text box in After Effects that automatically resizes based on your text length. So, no matter how much you type, the box will perfectly adjust to fit your text. Super handy for titles, captions, or lower thirds. Let's jump right in and I'll show you exactly to set it up. Alright guys, let's get started. Create a new comp, call it liquid glass, hit OK, and bring in the background. Hold Ctrl Alt F to fit to the comp. Let's go to effects and preset. If you don't find it here, go to Windows and make sure this checked and type in 2D. Now select this one, double click. Before that, actually make sure none of the layers is selected. Double click again. Now you see a shape layer with a couple of expressions. Now let's type in the text and with studio. Now align it to center. Let's select the shape and select the text. Go to padding. For some reason it's not centered, so let's adjust the padding and give it round corners. Now if you type in the text, the box will adjust accordingly. Let's select the text shape and rename it. Let's hit enter. Call it main shape. Now select this layer and go to selection tool. You can disable the stroke from here or here. Let's select stroke and select none. And let's toggle switch to find this icon and press it, and now it will act as an adjustment. Let's add an effect, blur, fast blur, and give it a blur, something like that. And let's duplicate this, Control D, or go here, edit, duplicate. Let's rename this to stroke, and let's bring it down. Either you can disable the fill and enable the stroke from here, and turn off this and adjustment layer switch, and you can see the stroke, and we can turn it off. We will use this as a map. Let's select the main shape and go to effect, distort, displacement map, and select the stroke layer, and also select effects and mask, change it to luminance, horizontal and vertical, and change these properties. As you can see, the edges are now kind of distorted. Let's adjust, and let's duplicate this layer, stroke layer, sorry. Bring it above and turn it on. And let's get rid of the blur, something like 4, I guess would be good. Let's go to channel, set matte, select the main shape, and now you can see it is kind of wrapping around the shape. Now duplicate the main shape again and rename it to highlight. Let's bring it up and then disable the adjustment layer. Remove these, but make sure these two stays, don't remove that. Go to effect, generate, CC light sweep, and let's bring it to the center, smooth, and change the angle. something like this, and let's change this to cut out. Now you can see how it affects the highlight. Now you can mess around with these properties and see what you like. That looks good. And let's duplicate this, Control D, and let's change its angle to something like this. You can come back anytime and change this angle. And for sure, as the text, if it is too long, you might need to change the angle later. Let's let's select the main shape again. Go to generate. Color correction, colorama. Let's blend this to give that kind of a glossy look. It's totally up to you. Let's add also distort, transform. Make sure you bring this above these effects and give it maybe 120. Maybe it's too much. Let's give it 150. 15, sorry. That looks good. Now let's type in a text. As you can see, the box follows the length of the text. It wraps around. No matter how long you type in, it will wrap around the text, which is so cool. I think we can still do lots of adjustments. This is the basic idea. Let's select all new null object, select all of them except for the background. Let's parent it. And now you can move around the text box. As you can see how it affects. Now you can, get rid of colorama if you want. It's just purely experimental. You can mess around with the, effect and see what you can come out with. Like here you can select some presets, RGB, and try to check with the blend mode. I'll leave it as it is. Now let's change the text back to Unbid Studio. Let's select the stroke and let's see. I think we can change this one's blend mode. Go toggle switch and let's make it to add and change the opacity to 50%. I think that looks better, maybe 40. Yeah, that looks good. And now let's go to selection tool, select the stroke and try to see if you change the blur level, how it affects. I think this is looking okay. Next, let's animate the text. Let's go to animate, tracking, add property again, opacity, and let's adjust the tracking to something like this, -43. That looks good, I think. Now let's go to range selector and create a keyframe on the start and go around half a second. Change it to 100%. Let's press F9 or right click and easy ease and go to graph editor and adjust the curve like that. And let's preview it. That looks pretty good. Now let's bring down the opacity to 0. Now as it reveals, the opacity will go from 0 to 100, which will look much better. Let's animate the position of the null. Remember, all the layers are basically parented to this null, so we can animate the position of the null. Let's press P and create a keyframe here, and then bring it up on the y-axis. And let's bring this keyframe a little bit, offset them. You can see it's very linear. Let's try to adjust this right around here maybe. And you don't need these two keyframes to be easy ease. I have an expression. I will leave it on the description for you guys. Let's copy this and let's alt click and Control V to paste. Now this will give a very smooth motion, like a bounce effect as it lands. There you go, it looks really good. You can speed it up, which will give more bounce, and drag it more on y-axis. Now let's preview it again and see. As you can see, the bounce is more visible now. That looks pretty good. Next, let's create a lighter background, solid. Choose a lighter background and let's bring it below everything. As you can see, it's not very nice. Let's duplicate the stroke layer and turn it on. Let's go and change the stroke width, something like that, and change the color to something like blue, darker blue, something like this. Yeah. And let's go to its effects, select the layer, go to effects, and change the blur level to something like this. Maybe something like that. And let's change no scale, and let's go to offset and Y offset. Now maybe something a little bit closer like that. Let's go to the layer and turn the opacity to something like that. Go to main shape and let's see, go down. I think let's turn off this colorama. Yeah, it looks much better. Let's get rid of colorama. Go to the stroke 2 and change its color to a darker color, something like that. And let's change the blend mode to normal, and that looks much better. And you need to, I told you, like highlights, you might need to adjust according to your text length or the background. You might need to change the highlights like this. This looks really much better. And let's turn the opacity of that stroke layer again. Now this is good for lighter background if you have a lighter background. Let's change this opacity, this shadow opacity, to fade in basically from here. That looks much better. Now you can mess around with this shadow Maybe something like that. I think we still doesn't look right. Let's change it to 50%, and let's go to the effects, sorry, stroke, and maybe change it to something that, and the blur level to a little bit lower. Now it looks much better, I think. So you can see you can mess around with the shadows and highlights, which will make it look really good. And you can type in text and it will wrap around, which is really cool. And change the highlight, make sure to change the highlights. That looks really nice. And that is pretty much it for this tutorial, guys. I hope you guys learned something new, and if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any questions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.